Of complaining when the quiz started to go out. Can I have your attention, please, Andre? There was a bit of complaining when the quiz started to go out, and they were like, "Oh, come on, man, we just had one yesterday." But here's the thing, and what's so important about getting these quizzes 3 days in a row. Part of success on a Regents exam or any test is being prepared for the details of the test. And I try, when I make these quizzes, to put up the kinds of questions that kids have made classic mistakes on for decades. And then when you catch your mistakes, needing once or twice, then you won't repeat those mistakes, and then you get them out of your way. And my experience is that if I just put it in to do it, you don't pay as much attention. But if I slap a grade on it, you'll definitely pay attention, especially if you know that you're going to get 2 more tries. So I say it all the time. I never care what you get on the first quiz. It is completely irrelevant to me. I care about the second and the third quiz, okay? The overwhelming number of people in class got an 80 on this. How many people got an 80? Raise your hand. Okay. And then 70? 90? Okay. So you had an 85. So how many people had grades between 70 and 90? Just about every person in the room. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is take you through and show you what your mistakes were. They were classic. They were the mistakes that your parents made, your older brothers and sisters. They all did the same exact things that you did in one way, shape, or form. I absolutely talked about these mistakes when we were going over these questions in class. But some people probably weren't paying attention, and in not paying attention, they probably didn't catch it when I said, these are the mistakes that people make. All right, so the first story I always tell with number 1 was the story about when I was a kid, and if my dad said Robert Carl Lindquist Jr., and that meant the beatings were about to begin. That meant that Dad was getting serious. So if you remember that particular part of the conversation, then you should also remember that it was related to the directions factor completely. Not one person in this class caught on to that word completely. What does completely always mean? 2 steps. On your paper now, write down 2 steps. And draw a little arrow to the word completely. This is the answer that virtually every person in the room put. And that is a true statement, that 5x cubed minus 20x does equal 5x squared, 5x times x squared minus 4. The problem is that if I said to you guys, reduce 4/8, and you put down 2/4, is that the right answer?
Yeah.
No, it's not. Does 2/4 equal 4/8?
Yeah.
Yes, but what's the right answer? 1/2. No but. You need to go 1 step further. Likewise, can you factor x squared minus 4? Yes. What's the factors of x squared minus 4?
X.
Difference in 2 perfect squares, guys. Everybody?
X plus 2.
X plus 2 and x minus 2. This is the answer. Now, no one got that wrong because they don't know how to do it. Everybody who got that wrong didn't focus on that word completely. Anytime the directions say to factor completely, what does that always mean? 2 steps. Do you think you're going to see a factor completely on tomorrow's quiz? Yeah. I'm not looking at it right now, but my guess is it's going to have a difference of 2 perfect squares. Haven't we been emphasizing that lately?
Yes.
Right? So there's a really good chance that on tomorrow's quiz, you're going to need to take it to the next step. Now, I meant what I said before when I talked about the importance of quizzes. I think if you remember back, you remember me mentioning this about completely. But I think that unless there's a price tag associated with it, we lack that sense of urgency. So I really wanted to make sure we emphasize this completely phrase. Go ahead. Well, here's the deal. It would not make it any more right but I would have to accept it because you did factor, okay? But that's kind of lame. That would be like if I said reduce 4/8 and you put 2/4. I really should say reduce completely or simplify. Simplify means go as simple as you can. If I just say to reduce it, well, 4/8 does equal 2/4. If I say reduce 500 over 1,000 and you write 5/10, that's true, you did reduce it, and it does equal 5/10. But you can expect somewhere on your Regents exam to see the phrase factor completely. It's pretty relevant. To get to an 85 on your Regents, which is, I hope, the goal for all of you, it is a long way from 65. It's even more than 20 points. Because if you do the raw score, it's probably more like 30 points. And that means that we can't afford to give away points because we don't recognize the importance of the word completely. It's not like you couldn't do this. If I'd have only given you x squared minus 4, how many people would have known to put x plus 2, x minus 2? Pretty much the whole class, right? But because I wrapped it up in this 5x in the beginning, people were like, oh, factor, oh, common factor, there it is, I'm done. That word completely makes all the difference. You have to be ready for that, okay? All right, next. The word problem. By and large, the word problem was done. Now, there were a couple of people, 2 or 3 people, who didn't emphasize something or didn't recognize, yes?
Towards like the end of the year, we're gonna have like a big test that's like everything that might be on the Regents.
This is what I do for Regents Review. Right now, there are 3 practice Regents exams. I chop them up every day, and we break them apart. At this point in time, I believe, I'm not sure, but let me look on my notes right here, because I've been working really hard at being prepared for this. Gotta put the old man glasses on here. There's 1 take-home Regents exam, practice. All right, so that'll be your 1 whole test that you get to look at. But from June 4th, which is my birthday, through June 16th, which is, I believe, the last day of classes, all we're going to do every day is review and chop those tests up and break them apart. But the other thing I want you to realize is this. Every single day we review for the Regents exam. Have you noticed how many times I say to you something like, you can expect to see this on the Regents? Because it's somewhat predictable. And the kinds of mistakes that you will make, unless you learn from your mistakes, are very predictable. Just like I knew that people would not factor x squared minus 4, I knew what would happen on this one too, okay? First off, it's extremely important you notice something here. It says there are 2 pairs of consecutive integers. Very few people caught on to the 2 pairs part. And I went over this exact thing. Molly, are you remembering when I went over this exact thing? Okay. 2 pairs of consecutive integers, and then I focused on this. And I told you a story about how when I used to teach like the equivalent of Algebra 2 trig at the high school, there was 1 year on the Regents exam where they asked them to solve a particular equation or problem, and it was like worth 6 points. And they asked me during the test, did you have to use algebra? And I said, well, it says, look, first off, I'm not going to answer something in a way that's going to cost me my job. But I said, look, it says right there, only an algebraic solution will be accepted, which to me means you have to use algebra. Well, when we got the thing back, if you had used the graphing calculator, they gave some credit. Not much, but they did give some credit. So this is telling you have to use algebra. So, oh sure, I can look at this and figure out that 4 times 5 is 20. I don't need to do any work to do that. I don't know if you remember that negative 5 times negative 4 is also 20. But the directions specifically said use algebra. So, anytime we're going to solve algebraically, I ask myself if there's a diagram. There is no diagram, so I go to a table. And I write first consecutive integer and second consecutive integer. Now, if the first consecutive integer is n, what's the second one? N plus 1. Good, and then their product is 20, so I gotta do n times n plus 1 is 20. Then I distribute, and I get n squared plus n is 20. And once we got to this part, just about everybody got to here, and they were very good. They knew to subtract the 20 from both sides. Then we got n squared plus n minus 20 equals 0. I thought you guys were rocking this, by and large, as a group. I thought you were doing really super. The factoring looked good. Then we did maybe the guy on the left, and we did maybe the guy on the right, and then we minus the 5, and then we get negative 5, and then we add the 4, and then we get 4, and this is what the kids put as the answers. Negative 5 and 4. Are negative 5 and 4 consecutive integers? Does negative 5 times 4 equal 20? No, it equals negative 20. Look, the first possible answer is negative 5. Then when you add 1, you get negative 4. So the first pair, notice it says here there are two what? Pairs. This is the first pair. Negative 5 and negative 4. Then this one is 4. What's the next one? 5. That's my second pair. So for the people who botched the end of this, I took off 10 points. For the people who didn't factor x squared minus 4, I took off 10 points. So now that you've seen your mistakes, I think they should be very doable. Savannah, this is why I think quizzes are so important. I think they're so important because I'll guarantee you that when you take tomorrow's quiz, you are so much more prepared for the tricks. You know what I mean? And that means to me that if we continue this through the Regents exam, by the time we hit the Regents, you're not going to be giving away a whole lot of points then. Afterwards, could you imagine if this would have been your Regents exam and you did this question? And if this would be worth like 3 points on your Regents. Maybe even 2. And you go through the whole thing and you get negative 5, 4, and they take off half credit because you forget to get the other ones. Because they would. But now that you look at this, you're like, oh, that's easy, I can do that. Or, imagine that the first one would have been a part 1 question. Actually, they had one just like it on the part 2, the first year. And they asked the kids to factor it, and they stopped at 5x times x squared minus 1. Not all the kids, but about, I'd say about 20% of the kids. The other 80% got it right. But 20% or so, they stopped early. You imagine if you get an 84, 85 means mastery. Imagine if you get 84 on the Regents and you miss question 1. Would you be, I'd be annoyed as could be. I would want to like hit somebody. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Because I didn't recognize the word completely, I get an 84, not an 85. Well, yeah. So that's the way the game is played, and we have to be prepared to not get caught up in that. All right, so, here we go, we're rocking it out, we're done with these. How many people feel like they're ready tomorrow when they walk in and they're gonna be like pushing 100 on this thing? All right, that's how I feel you should be, and I truly expect to get lots of hundreds tomorrow. But you know what, the truth is that none of us is perfect. And sometimes we need to make a mistake more than once. So we give you a third quiz in the grouping to get that going. All right, so, you know, I don't have time to actually physically check and make sure that you do it, but doing the do it is just as important as doing the quiz every day. The difference is now you have to grade yourself. Okay, so let's get it all on one side. Plus 4, and I get 5x squared minus 21x plus 4 equals 0. I look for a common factor, there is none. And B, I multiply by 5 and I get x squared minus 21x plus 20. Now that is easy to factor. How do I factor that? Andre?
X minus 20.
That's right. X minus 20, x plus 1. But then since I multiplied by 5, what do I have to remember to do? Divide by 5. This is that plan B technique, and that gives me x minus 4, elementary school, 5x plus 1 equals 0. So then I come over here, and maybe it's the guy on the left. X minus, yeah?
It's supposed to be -1.
Oh, I'm sorry, -1. Thank you. X minus 4 equals 0, or 5x minus 1 equals 0. Add 4 to both sides. X equals 4. Add 1, but I'm not done yet. Divide by 5. X equals 1/5. So the two correct solutions are 4 and 1/5. Okay, any questions? All right, how many people got that right? Because I think that's a hard question. I think that's harder than anything on the quiz.
I got it.
Okay, And you know what, I like Andre's answer in the sense I got most of it right. And to me, tomorrow, if you get one just like that, I want more right. I want to see improvement each and every day. All right, any questions on that? All right, so we've been now, that's kind of review of some of the hard stuff that's been going on. Now we're going into this completing the square technique. And what I'm hoping is that you can look at this n plus 8 squared and know without even writing it out now what you should get. You should get n squared plus 16n plus 64.
One. Wait, why is it plus 64?
Well, if we write it out, wouldn't this be n plus 8 times n plus 8? Right? So n times n is n squared, and then I get 8 n's and another 8 n's. How many n's is that altogether? 16 n's. And then 8 times 8 is 64. Now, think of it backwards for a moment. This is what we worked on yesterday with completing the square. Didn't we say, oh, this is a perfect square, so half of this would be n plus 8? And oh wait, does 8 squared equal 64? Yes, it does. Okay, do you remember that? We built the table, we did all of that work with that and everything and so on and so forth? Okay, any question? All right, and that leads us to the next question, which really, if you can get number 3 right, you're going to find the work we do over the next 2 days unbelievably easy. If not, the work for the next 2 days will only be easy when you understand number 3. I got a half a 10. So I'm going to get x plus 5 squared. But Andre, just like before, we had to recognize that the 8 squared was the 64. What would the 5 squared be? 25. But they have what? So then I have to put plus 2.
That's it.
That's it.
Alright.
Okay? Doesn't this equal x squared plus 10x plus 27? Right? Because I'm going to get the 25. The 10x comes from the 5x and the 5x. And then the 25 from 5 squared, and then 2 more makes 27. Any question about that? Okay, so that's today's lesson. And we may throw it into an equation by the end of the period. But in the beginning, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to set things up in terms of a completing the square technique. Take a look at number 1. A squared minus 4a plus 15. Let's rewrite that. Go ahead. Rewrite that as an expression that will contain a perfect square binomial. Perfect square means something squared. Always looking for that half, right? And then in your mind you're squaring it out, and then you're figuring how do I get from that to the number they have up there. Okay, so what am I going to look to take half of? Who wants to help me out here? What am I going to, I know you know. Lily, what do you got?
4.
Yeah, good. And it's, be more specific, -4, right? So that would make this a minus 2 squared. Everybody have that part down?
Yeah.
Good. Now, if I squared the minus 2, what would the last part be when I double distribute it? What would the minus 2 squared be? The minus 2 times the minus 2. What would that give me? Positive 4. What do they have here? So I have to put plus 11. Okay? How many people got that right? Good. Good. We're in the right direction. Try the next one. Remember, this used to be a topic kids would do in 12th grade. Okay, now what am I going to get in the parentheses? What do I got going on here? I know you two know. I'm looking for somebody else to help me here. Leanne, what do we got?
And -1.
N minus 1. Now, when I square out the minus 1, what am I going to get? 1. That has minus 15, so I have to put minus 16 to get it to work, right? Well, Fredo, you're giving it a little bit of a look. See, when I do n minus 1 times n minus 1, I'm going to get n squared minus 1n minus another n is 2n plus 1. But they have minus 15. What do I have to put here so when I add it to plus 1, I come out with minus 15? I have to put minus 16. Okay? Any questions, anybody? We good? Okay. Now, where do we go next? 3 more. Talk to each other. Give it a shot, and then we'll go over the 3 answers in another couple of minutes. Feel free to talk. Great time to communicate. Going over it together. I'm sorry? No, well, they can. It's ugly. 3.5. And that's the beauty of the calculator, because then you don't have to do it all in your head. You know what I mean?
Doesn't it have to be a fraction?
Ordinarily, I would say yes, but you see how they gave you a decimal at the end? So that kind of cues me to go in the direction of a decimal. Don't let that third one intimidate you, right? Lily with a look of satisfaction on her face, like she knows she got it. Sarah with a look of disgust on her face, like she'd rather be eating. Minor saying, I'd rather be in gym. You're not supposed to agree with that. You're supposed to go, oh no, Mr. Lindquist, I love your class the most. It's even better than gym and lunch.
I don't like gym.
You know, I coached Mr. Padalecci from when he was about 6 years old.
In what?
Wrestling.
He wrestled.
Oh, he was good. Very good. Very, very, very good. Tough kid. Legit.
Legit?
Legit.
He was legit?
And I'll tell you what, he is one of the best pairs of partners. Him and a kid named Jose Espinal are 2 of the best partners I ever had. They would not let the other one win. It was a brawl all day, every day in practice. And they were best friends. They're still really close friends. But they would not let the other one win. Simple as that. They are fantastic. Incredible. Some of the best kids I ever coached in my life. Really, truly a blessing to me. Big time. The other guy's name, Jose Espinal. Espinal. Amazing kid. Amazing, amazing, amazing kid. Truly love him.
Do you know Felicia? No, because my cousin went to school with Mr. Padalecci.
Oh, then I'm sure I would know. But do you know the last name? You don't know your cousin's last name.
Wait, no,
All right, who wants to do number 1 up on the board?
I do.
I'm going to let Lily do it.
Oh my god.
I actually have you in mind for a different one.
Number 3.
Possibly.
Here's number 3. Give it to me.
Just hit the color of your choice.
Okay.
Whatever color you like.
Why'd you pick this one?
Why not?
Why'd you pick this
All right, here we go.
Thanks, Leanne.
You know you can't keep your fingers above the green line.
Don't laugh, guys.
All right, what do you think, guys? Are we good?
It's a 4.
All right, why don't we give Lily a round of applause? Very good. Okay, number 2, who wants to do it? No, you are the class leader. We need you to do number 3. We need you to man up on that one. Who wants to do number 2? Come on, somebody step up with the guts to do number 2. Somebody in the room. Molly, here we go. Pick your favorite color over there.
I like purple. There's no purple.
No, there is no purple.
What the heck is that?
That's a really long 2 or a half a minus
I
sign,
was
one or
gonna
the
do
other.
minus sign, but it looks messed up now.
What do you think, guys?
Yeah.
Very nice, I agree. Are we 2 for 2, everybody?
Yes.
Good. Now, I'm not saying it's going to get as hard as number 3 on your Regents, but it could, and the process is the same. Don't change a thing about what you do. Professor Betancourt. Whoa! Tough crowd we got here, huh?
Get off the stage. Oh my God, Andre.
All right. Hold on a sec. What was 3.5 squared? Help me out on that. 10.25 or something?
12.7.
12.25? So that would make 11. Yeah, we're looking good. I'm liking it.
Yeah, she helped me.
All you?
It wasn't all her.
Is that your way of saying I want a chocolate chip cookie today? Is that how that goes? No, but I usually buy them at lunch and I give half the bag because I don't want to eat a whole bag. I'm a little chunky as it is. So by giving half a bag away, I kind of keep the girlish figure and at the same time I make somebody happy. So it's a win-win for me. Didn't I give them to you yesterday?
You gave him to Anthony.
I gave them to you soon though, recently. No?
I did. I turned him down.
Oh, you turned them down. Okay.
Turned him down. I turned him
All
down,
right.
and then no one took him.
Okay. So anyway, you guys can start your homework.